Hey ladies, happy Friday. It's Kristin and I am excited to connect with you and do a live video on a topic that I've heard come up a lot this week with my clients, and actually something that I had come up for myself in my personal life, and also with some clients or calls that I was having as well. And truly it's a limiting belief that a lot of us have, and it's a limiting belief that can keep a lot of us stuck in our business, but also in a lot of different areas of our life. So I want to talk about it because sometimes we don't realize that this limiting belief is going on for us. And truly it came up in a pretty big way for me, especially this week with some stuff I had going on. So I want to talk about it. And I want to talk about how you can shift it so that you don't get stuck in it and it ends up stopping you. It's really one of the big beliefs that keeps us small. It keeps us from creating the life we really want and doing the things that we really want, because we start limiting ourselves and telling ourselves like, that's too much. Like that's, I can't do all that, or I can't have all that. Like that's not okay. It's too much. It's, not okay to have that many things or to have the life that I really want. So what is this belief? I'm going to go into it. And if you're here, say hello. I'm pulling up so I can see. Hey, Molly, I'm glad you're joining. Yeah, Molly's scared because I said that she's part of what inspired this video. So, hey, Priscilla. Hey, Roxy. Hey, Eliza. Glad you're here. So, Molly, I will explain more about that so you don't have to feel scared about it. But it was also part of my personal stuff that was inspiring the video as well. So what this belief is that really stops us a lot of times in our life is the belief that we have to choose between the things that we want, and we can't have it all, or we can't have more than one thing that we want, or we think we have to choose one thing or the other. And really in our life, we can have both or have it all in a lot of different areas. So we get into this habit of telling ourselves like, I need to choose one thing. And if I have this, I can't have the other things. And it's not true. Who said that? Like, it's usually based off of some limiting belief that we have from growing up or from other people. But it's really, and I'm going to illustrate this more so that it makes more sense, because I think sometimes some of these are a little abstract without specific examples. But actually understanding this limiting belief will really help you also when it comes to working with your clients and having clarity calls or sales calls or discovery calls, whatever you want to call it, with your clients, because it's a huge form that comes up in resistance to moving forward with coaching, resistance to changing, resistance to, transformation. So how this really shows up, and actually how it showed up for me this week, like personally in my life, was I actually just recently invested in coaching. I'm always investing in more coaching. So to work with a business mentor myself, which I continue to do all the time so that I can bring you guys all the greatest information and help you from what I learn as well. So this was a big investment, like the biggest investment I've made so far. And so because of that, of course that's always a little scary, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, it's scary for me. It's scary for everyone, cause it's new, scary and exciting, cause I know it's going to help me. But so I told myself that because I made that investment, I couldn't buy a new car. And I need a new car because my air conditioning recently went out. And so I kind of like had this belief, and I was kind of telling myself this is like, it's okay. You don't really need air conditioning. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And then we got a few days of like 90-degree weather, and I was like, forget this. Like, you can have both. There's no reason I can't get a new car and having invested in coaching. And so this week I ended up going and doing that. And so, it really like kind of put that belief to, that it's not true. It's not true that I had to choose one or the other. Like, really, I could have both. And this comes for us in a lot of things in our life. Another way that it has showed up recently for me is that I always tell myself that I either need to choose between going for a hike during the day or going to a yoga class. I can't do both. Like that's too self-indulgent. That's too much time having fun or doing things I like. Like it's silly. There's really no reason that I can't do both. I can make the time to do both if I want to do both of them, and they're both things I love and things that are important to me. So it's things like that. Like we tell ourselves these stories, and there's usually not validity behind them. So anyone who's watching right now, like tell me right now too, if you kind of look into your own life, is there any places in your life where you're telling yourself you can't have both things that you want, or that you're having to choose between one thing or another? And I'll give you another example that was a big one for me too, was when it came to my career. So I've had about 1 million different majors. And when I was deciding what I wanted to do, because I would go back and forth, I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. Part of what I was really interested in was doing something that was really artistic and creative, because I love doing that stuff. But then there was this other side of me that was like, it's not making a really big difference in the world. It's not really making the impact that I really want to be doing. And I wanted to do something that was more like health, medical, that type of thing. So I thought I had to choose between the two. And I really went back and forth between them. And then I started to realize, as the career I'm doing now, I'm doing both. I'm helping people on a really big level, and doing more of like the mindset transformational work that I wanted to be doing when I was going more into like the medical way with a background in chiropractic and the functional medicine. And I also use my creativity all the time, like creating a video like this or doing all the posts I do in my group. And, there's so much creativity that comes into having your own business. And so I'm using both of them all the time. So I didn't have to choose between the two, which I thought I did. So that was another big one. You guys didn't tell me. Did anyone have anywhere where they see this showing up in their life? Let me know in the comments if you do. Because I think it's good just to see this, where you're thinking that you have to choose one or the other. Another one for me that's just coming up too is, so I love cities and kind of like all the activity that you have to choose when you live in a big city, but I also really love being in nature and love being somewhere super quiet where all I can hear is birds and animals and I don't hear any traffic or things like that. So always thinking like I have to choose one or the other. And of course there's going to be places where you can have that quiet and that nature, but also have, a city or somewhere close by that you can be getting the activity or the culture and the good food and stuff that you want as well. So just kind of like all these realizations of telling myself I need to choose one or the other and you can't have both. And really for a lot of us, like in order to get all the things that we really want, it doesn't make sense for us to have to choose one or the other. So how does this relate to our coaching, to having those calls? That's what I want to talk about. And Molly, this is where I said it was coming up for you, and for you had mentioned a call that you had with a client this week. And I actually had this call with a client this week too, and it was like the same situation, a little bit different, but pretty much the same. So what it was is having a call with a client who's interested in doing coaching. Melinda, that's a good one. So money and freedom. So thinking that's actually one thing I want to talk about. So thank you for bringing that up. So thinking that in order to have money or to create money in our business, that we can't have the freedom, or that we're going to have to be like chained to our computer, that we don't have enough time to have fun, that we're going to be like working all the time. That's a huge limiting belief. And I have actually found that through starting my business, I have way more freedom. I still work really hard. I really do. But I would say I work efficiently so that the time where I am working is more productive time spent versus like going to a job where you have to clock in for, let's say, 8 hours every day, and you sit there and you watch the clock tick by, and most of the time you're doing things that don't really matter. They're not really getting something accomplished. You're going to silly meetings. So most people, when they go to like a hour work week job, they're probably being productive like 2 hours a day, something like that. So if you take that and you think about in your coaching business, if you were productive for 2 hours a day and really productive, you could get a lot of stuff done. And then you have a lot of time left in the day to be doing whatever it is you want to be doing. So it really is about like spending that productive time and being choosy about what you put your time on and not getting distracted by things that don't really help you. So that's always something I talk about too. So Lauren's saying having to choose between being financially comfortable and being home with your kids. Yeah, so that's a big one too, that we think we have to choose. And that's where coaching and being able to build your own business is so cool, because you can build it around your life. I always call it like a lifestyle business. Just like I was talking about before, like I want to be able to go and do yoga. I want to be able to go and hike like when it's nice outside and when it's not too hot or too cold. So I can move my schedule around so that it fits that stuff, so that I put in my yoga classes so that time is open. I put in when I want to go hiking. Usually it's earlier in the morning. You know, it might be different in the winter versus in the summer, depending on the weather that we have too. So I have all of that freedom and that flexibility. With your kids, you can set it up so that you're there, or you're not doing work, or you don't have clients when your kids are around. So you have a lot of that flexibility, which is really, really cool. So I wanted to go back. I got off track. But how this shows up when we're having calls with our clients, or having, sales calls with people that are interested in working with us. So how it shows up is people saying a lot of times that they can't do coaching because of blah, 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 something else. Because of my kids, because of maybe, so this is what came up for Molly. It actually came up for me this week too, because someone's getting married and they have money going to that, or they have kids going to college, or what are some of the other things? Maybe they're purchasing a new house. Like, we have all these excuses that could always come up as to why we can't do coaching right now, or why we can't do something else that we really want to be doing. And yes, it makes sense that you're going to be thoughtful about where you're spending your money, and not just like throwing money in places where it doesn't make sense. But I think always like looking at the power of coaching, and that it's such a big investment. And just, Molly, hopefully you don't mind if I use your example of what came up for your client too. But so Molly had spoken to a client who wanted to work with her to help her lose weight. But she's like, I can't invest right now because I'm getting married and I have, all these costs coming up with the wedding. And then we're looking at it and we're like, okay, so now you're not going to lose the weight that you want to for your wedding, because you're saying that you can't spend the money on coaching right now. And you're going to look and you're going to spend your wedding day not liking how you look in your wedding dress. And you're going to have those pictures forever, feeling like you're not super happy with how you looked. And here you could have invested that money, which, come on guys, people have the money to invest in these things. Sometimes people really truly don't, but most times people do. And I always say this, like, I think it's a good example. Like, if something happened, like, let's say someone's TV broke, or something like that, or something happened to their car, you better believe that they're going to come up with the money to fix it, or to buy a new TV, or whatever it is. So it's really people not necessarily seeing the value, or us maybe not having them dive deep enough to see the value of investing into the coaching, and how much it would change this person's life or change her experience if she did go to her wedding. She made this investment. She was able to lose the weight, and then she goes into her wedding day feeling amazing about how she looks, looking back at those pictures and being like, oh my gosh, like, I feel and look amazing. I mean, how much is that worth to someone? Truly, I think it's priceless. And so getting over this thinking that we have to choose like one thing or the other, and that we can't have both. I think it's really important, and it really helps us as far as calls that we have with people too, because there's always going to be things that are coming up in our life that we feel like we have to be putting attention to, and that we maybe can't be putting attention to other things. But when we're able to look at priorities and how these things can change our life, I think we can see that it's worth it to invest in the things that are most important to us and that are going to have a big impact on our life. Molly's saying, struggle to think creatively on the spot when they come up with an ejection she wasn't expecting. So yeah, that's true. And so I always say, like, my biggest thing when I'm having calls with people is always to stay curious with people. And it's just the more you do them, the easier they get, right? Like having calls with people, it's just a skill to learn. And I know in the past, like, I always used to get super nervous. Every sales call I had, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I needed to like pump myself up. Now, like, truly they're easy breezy. Like, it's not a big deal at all. But it's just a skill that you learn, and the more you practice them, the easier they get. And the better you're able to handle these objections as they come up. And so the more that you handle them, the more you start seeing the same ones, and then you can address it. So it's like the same thing. Molly, I think you had this objection come up too, but I've had it come up in the past too. Like with people saying like their kids were going to college and they couldn't invest right now because of that. Well, if your kids are going to college, they're going to be in college for how many years? So like you're going to wait 4 years or 5 years or whatever until your kid's done with college, until you can lose the weight or get healthy or start your business or whatever it is. Another big one that came up for me and comes up for a lot of people is thinking that we have to choose between like paying off debt or being able to invest in things that we want to, or like starting your business or whatever it is. I mean, I will tell you that I had debt when I started my business. I mean, I had student loans. I still have student loans. I mean, I had a lot of student loans because of going to chiropractic school. But had I told myself that I couldn't start my business because I had debt, I would still be waiting to start my business. And I probably would never have started my business if I waited until I paid off all my debt. So that's another big thing where we get stuck too. We're like, because it isn't necessarily bad to have debt. I mean, you obviously don't want to put yourself into a bad position where you aren't able to pay your bills, but as long as you're paying it monthly, and because of that, you're able to live the life you want to be living, like, I think that's okay. And it's much better than waiting forever and ever and ever to be able to do what you really want to be doing, and live the life that you really want to be living. So I think kind of bringing all this stuff into perspective and stop thinking that you have to choose one thing or the other thing, and that you can't have both, or you can't have everything that it is that you're wanting. So anyone have any questions about that, or any other places where this really shows up for you, where you feel like you get stuck and you're like, I have to choose one thing or I have to choose the other thing, or that it's coming up for clients? Oh, I think this is an important one too. So I have a number of clients who work with people around like anxiety or depression or that type of thing too. Or if you're working with people around a health issue, and they say, like, one of the things is, like, I'm already working with a doctor, or I'm already working with a therapist, and I can spend money on coaching as well. Well, they wouldn't have come across your stuff and been interested in it and gotten into your community in whatever way if they didn't still have a problem going on. So obviously them seeing that doctor or seeing a therapist or whatever it is, it's not fixing the problem for them, right? Like, they're still struggling. So a lot of people have this belief, like, I'm investing in one thing or one type of therapy, I can't do something else. Coaching works along with everything. So there's no reason that someone can't do coaching and do therapy or be working with a doctor or whatever. Like, it's an awesome adjunct or addition to really helping people get awesome results. Because coaching is really about taking action, becoming responsible for your life, and there isn't really many other like modalities or therapies or doctors that are going to really teach you that. So it's such a powerful tool that can be really brought into and go along with any other type of alternative therapy or that someone else is doing. So I think that's a good one to know too. Okay. Hey, Cassie. So let me just see what you're saying here. Okay, so Cassie's saying like she had a friend who that she's helped a lot with her insomnia and health issues. After a lot of medical doctors were not able to help her, but she said she would never pay someone to help her with her issues that wasn't certified, and it made her feel like she needed a master's or some sort of additional training, which this happens to a lot of people, that we feel like, oh my gosh, I always need more training, people aren't going to trust me. So what really is the case, and what I find like proven truly, I can say this, is that most people, there's gonna be some people out there, like that's her own limiting belief, and look how far it got her, probably wasting a ton of time and money on things that didn't help her. But a lot of people, and I know I'm included in this category, I want to work with someone who has gotten the results themselves, and that, or they've gotten the results themselves, or they've helped other people get the results. That shows me a hell of a lot more than the letters behind someone's name, the number of certifications they've been doing. That's just education. Education is not experience. It doesn't it doesn't get you results. And so I think we have grown up believing that we need to have the degree, we need to have, the certifications, whatever. But I do think that belief is quickly fading as we are, that we have the internet available to us and so much information to us, because people are starting to take their power back. They're starting to question their doctors. They're starting to, this isn't everyone. This is the people who you would probably want to be working with. But they're starting to want to take back control and not just be told what to do, and make their own decisions. And those are the people who are going to want to work with someone who they know can help them and get the results. And it's just like, I have clients who help people with, someone who's had cancer, the same thing. Like, you could go and see the best medical doctor who has 1 million letters behind his name, 1 million certifications, and he's going to be telling you to do chemo and radiation and all this stuff. And you can just follow whatever he's going to say and probably end up, I'm not going to say this, sicker, dying, whatever it is. Or you can make up your own decision, do your own research, and, take your health back into your own hands, and try some alternative therapies and really end up avoiding a lot of the pain and suffering that I think a lot of things in the medical system, not to rip on it, because there's a lot of good things in the medical system, especially for emergency medicine, but there's a lot of false beliefs and a lot of things that are controlled by the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industries. So the people who are open to that are the people who you want to be working with. It isn't our job to try to change people's minds, or to convince them like you need to try alternative therapies or whatever. Like, you're really looking to work with the people who are already open to it. They're sick of being shuffled around the medical system. They're sick of going to therapists, psychiatrists, getting pushed medications on them, and they're looking for alternatives. Those are the people you're wanting to work with. So I really do not believe that you need a bunch of certifications. And as being a doctor myself and having a ton of training in nutrition, working under 2 doctors who were like specialists in like alternative medicine areas, both of them in different areas, I can tell you when it comes to helping people make real changes in their life, it comes back to the super simple things. It does not come back to anything that you learn in the classroom or in a textbook. I can promise you that from the bottom of my heart. So I think it's something good to know and to realize, and to stop telling ourselves that we need to do all these things that we really don't need to do. So Cassie, I hope that helps with that. Priscilla, let me see what you were saying. Stay-at-home mom. Yeah, so Priscilla was saying the difference between going, she was a stay-at-home mom and she chose to go back to school to pursue the nutrition path and feeling guilty about taking time away from her kids to work on, to study for a test, or, you know, work on whatever it is that you're working on. And I think it goes back to the same thing, Priscilla. Like, obviously you're not choosing going to work or pursuing your passion over your kids. You can have both, right? It's just about putting those boundaries in place so that you're not working all the time and ignoring your kids, or ignoring, you know, not giving your passion and the nutrition the energy it deserves because it's something you really want to be doing and where your heart is calling you. Ignoring that, you know, just so you don't feel guilty about your kids. It's not one or the other. You can really do both. And I think for your kids, it sets like an awesome example to be following your heart and to be doing what you really want to be doing and to find that balance for yourself. So I know that's a big one too, Priscilla. So, Eliza's saying such a good point. Oh, and that she's in debt too, and why she's invested in coaching. Yeah, so I will tell you, you know, starting my business, and I think doing anything that you're really passionate about, you're going to be able to make so much more money doing that than you are doing something that you hate, because the energy isn't there, the passion isn't there, the drive isn't there, and so not allowing like that fear. I mean, I don't know why we have so much fear around debt, but I think it's just because we're told that it's really, really bad. But even when you start learning about like what really makes sense as far as paying off debt, it isn't to just throw all your money at debt and like get rid of it like it's some dirty thing that we need to be like ashamed of and get rid of as soon as possible. That's actually not even what's recommended and not what makes the most sense for you financially. It actually makes more sense to be putting money into investing, and to be paying off that debt slowly. It makes a lot more sense. So when you start to look at things, that's actually what they tell you to do, like to pay off debt the smart way, and the way that will actually end up making you more money. And then having debt, especially if it's like student debt and stuff too, or even investing in a home and stuff, it actually can be to your benefit when it comes to taxes and stuff as well. So there's like these different things to look at it a little differently, and to just be, like I said, it's all about like education and knowing, education as far as educating ourselves to make decisions based off of just making decisions based on fear or what we've been taught by other people. So when you know the truth behind things, then you can be like, okay, like this actually doesn't make sense. And I would be better off doing things this way. So let me know if you guys have any other questions at all. And otherwise, that's all I wanted to cover up. So I'd probably so I'd go ahead and wrap up. But I think it's, like I said, just it can bring a lot of more opportunities to us when we know we don't have to be choosing between one thing and another. And a lot of times there's ways to have both. So wherever you feel like that's coming up for you in your life, just look at that and be like, you know, is it true? Like, do I have to choose one thing versus the other? Or is there a way for me to be having both of these things in my life? And usually there's a way to have both. Roxy said it was very encouraging. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Like I said, this stuff always comes up for me. Like, I know it comes up for you guys too. Like, I'm always bringing from things that come up for me, come up for my clients. Like, we all experience the same things. So we're all, you know, going through the same little journey of life, where we're figuring out like how to be our best self, how to help other people, you know, all these things. So, you know, they're universal lessons, universal principles. Molly's saying she's going to use this on her call today. You better let me know how it goes. I can't wait to hear it. And Molly's been rocking her calls. So, So ladies, thank you so much everyone who joined me. If you have any questions about that, let me know in the comments. If you really get stuck with any of these things and you want personal support, send me a message, comment below and let me know, hey, Kristin, I could use a little help on these things. And, I'd be happy to support you in whatever way I can. So I hope you guys all have a beautiful weekend. It's supposed to be cooler here now. I'm going to be out driving around in my new car that has air conditioning now that it's not so hot. And going to the farmer's market and hopefully more fun things too. But I hope you guys all have a beautiful weekend and I will talk to all you soon. Bye.